You guys mind if I sit down to talk?
Up to you.
Okay. Oh, sure. Where is it facing? Am I on it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm running for county court judge. It's Judge Tinlin's seat. He's retiring after 36 years on the bench. And the election is August 23rd. Early voting starts August 13th. A little bit about my background. I've been a lawyer for 11 years. I've practiced all types of law, from criminal to civil to family. Currently I'm doing real estate, mostly because it's something that I can do while I'm campaigning. So I do a lot of quiet title work, which I started when my husband and I started buying homes, tax deed homes, and then we would renovate them and sell them. The tax deeds are not what they used to be. You know, we used to buy a house for $12,000, put in 30 or 40 and sell it for 100, but now they're selling for 100. But it was fun while it lasted. But we recognized a need for quieting the title on those properties, because obviously you can't get a warranty deed on those unless you do that. So through that process, we met a lot of other investors and realized that it was actually a pretty good business plan. So I have probably 100 quiet title cases at a time. So if anyone ever needs quiet title work, let me know. There's not a lot of people that do it and do it quickly.
What is the cost for that?
We charge $1,500 in attorney's fees, plus the cost. The costs are usually around $1,000. Okay. But what we found is that, you know, it's a volume business. So a lot of attorneys that were handling them, they would take a year because the attorneys just weren't moving them. But we kind of made it our business model to do them quickly, because time is money. You know, these investors need to turn around and sell their house. So anyway, if anyone needs a quiet title, let me know. We're really good at it. I took the realtor exam and I passed it, but I'm not under a broker, so I am, I guess, an inactive realtor.
We can fix that today.
I've been busy the past few months, which is why I haven't, you know, completely finished that. But yeah, so I've done real estate law. I think it's important for a judge, because county court judges handle landlord-tenant issues. So I think that it's important for a judge to have a background in real estate. So that's a little bit about me. I have 4 kids. They are all boys. They're 6, 6, 4, and 2. And we live in a little farm neighborhood over by Nice High School, and we have chickens and goats and 3 acres where the boys can be boys and just run. And I can tell them, don't come in until it gets dark. But it's a cool little neighborhood. So I don't want to take up too much time. I know you'll have a meeting. If anyone has any questions, you can ask me now, or I'm going to stick around for the meeting and you can ask me afterward. I'd be happy to talk.
Sorry, to mix a little business with pleasure.
Sure.
Okay. We do a lot of tax deed stuff ourselves. Okay. In addition to that, so this is good to get. Of course, it's going to be the judge pretty quick. So.
I'm training my replacement as we speak. So.
Also, we do estate work.
Okay.
Right? And the real estate part. We don't practice law, but we are able to help people. We've got 2 going right now that we're having to get probate done. So, but we expect to do a lot more with what we do. We do a lot of research on distressed properties, foreclosures, and so forth. We've written several books about it. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you, because
yeah, that's great.
That's a good contact. You're a good contact for us as well. So, any questions we want to ask this lady? She becomes the judge.
What made you decide to run for judge?
So my dad was in the military. My mom was a teacher. So growing up, I always had that public service. You know, it was kind of ingrained in us that was what you did. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but I always kind of had that public service component that I wanted to get back to. So I felt like I've had a ton of jury trials. I've done civil and criminal and family, and I felt like I had the well-rounded experience and it was time to get back into public service. And you know, like I said, Judge Tinlin's been there for 36 years, so these judicial seats don't open up very often. So when I heard Judge Tinlin was retiring, I kind of, you know, my husband and I sat down and talked about it a lot, because my kids, I mean, I had a 1-year-old at the time that I decided to run. So it was a big decision, but felt like it was the right time.
That's good. That's real good. I'm proud to meet you. Glad.
Thank you.
You know, we are glad to have you here.
Thanks.
And you're welcome on Wednesday. We do this every Wednesday. If you want to come in and just come out on, you know. You can put a sign up front if you want to. And the other lady this morning, we have a mutual friend, we call her Nancy. She put a sign up there, and I said, sure. But I've never met her, so I don't get to meet. Used to know everybody. It was running for office.
Yeah.
But,
County's gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah.
A lot.
It has. So we count our blessings to have you here.
Thank you. I
We
appreciate
always
it.
start our program off with a prayer, and we've got Pastor Taylor. He's a great realtor, but he's also a pastor.
Let's pray together. God in heaven, we thank you again for your blessings today. We thank you for another opportunity to learn and to grow with all we're going to do here in this meeting. We seek your blessing for that. And then we ask you to bless us, Lord, in our work that we do and the people that we meet. Amen.
Thank you. After this, we have lunch for my 87-year-old sister's. Today's her birthday. And so we're going to have lunch at Red Lobster for her. But we're just killing time anyway, waiting on the when you come.
Okay.
Mike, where's Mike Corson? Mike? Hey, there's my brother. One of my brothers.
Do you need a chair?
No.
Let me go grab one.
Hey, you're fine. Get one.
Here, Caleb, will you go in there and see if there's any more chairs ready? Thank you.
Hey, how you doing?
You have a seat.
Where are you?
Here.
I can move to this.
No, you're all right.
Sure?
You're okay. We're glad to have that with you. That's my brother from Columbia. We have two brothers. Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate you, buddy. I want Mike to share something with you that.
Sharon.
All right, y'all Sharon.
Yeah.
Mike is one of our newest additions. I need to get her right here to operate the machine.
Wendy, we need you.
Wendy, you're needed.
That one?
This one,
Okay,
and,
okay.
and Mike has done something that I've never seen anybody do since I've been in the business. Okay? He hit the ground running, and without any knowledge or experience in the real estate business, he figured out that he could attract all the people he needed with his phone.
It's got a video button.
Huh?
Who knows? I
You
mean,
got a video button?
no.
What do you see one? You get the thing? You need mine? This is Wendy Brown. Wendy Brown,
Hi.
I got some techies here, thank God.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is fancy.
Otherwise that'd be a big
Remote?
trouble.
Sorry, I'm late. Dr. Carmichael pulled us to the side, so.
You got somebody you trained for the.
He
You
does.
do that?
Yes, he does.
To do the IT stuff?
He's,
Quite talented.
Yes. We hired a new lawyer, and so I'll be working with her
Where is that at? Where's the office?
yeah,
in Nocatee. We have an office in Palm Coast too.
He's
he's
bringing.
retiring.
I will.
Not married to anything we're doing.
No.
Services.
So basically, are you retiring?
We're buying in Jackson, we're buying in
Or are you just going somewhere
Palm
else?
Coast, we're buying in the States. People dead and got kids and we don't get along with them, so it's. But anyway, it's part of what we teach and train here, and one day soon we're gonna teach about the docket, what you're trying to leave, what's the status of the foreclosure. We've done a lot of stuff over the last 40 years. I have three.
Not a lot of people understand that, but I think understanding it is key to knowing if you're buying a good deal or not. And I think a lot of people
Well,
just
that
don't know,
plus
so they
we
shy
get
away from
listings, because it's a specialty in the business, in the industry. And so, when you get up, and if you can put up, getting 14 fixing to send out an APB for you.
I already did. Dr. Carmichael pulled us to the side, so it kind of got us. I was like,
I realized just how much out of business you would be without
business cards.
without these younger techies around here. You know?
Yeah, marketing changes fast.
And we're able to do most of what we do on Facebook. And it's amazing.
That was a great picture.
It's the only time they've all been sitting still at one time, I think.
That's a rarity.
There was a lot of bribery that went into that, but
Your boys, your old guys, that's incredible. I got a little 7-year-old grandson.
they're a mess.
oh my goodness, they're so cute.
Your husband a lawyer too?
Yes.
Yeah, you really got one? Right, that's good. Does he practice law?
Yes. Yep. He and I started the firm when it was just the two of us, and now we have 10 lawyers.
Oh my
Wow.
Wow.
And you want to be the judge?
Yes. Been working with my husband too long.
Turn that light out.
You want light out?
Thank you. We start off every week with this because this is what we offer, and we're different than any other real estate company. The first one is what we call dimension number 1. That's listing and selling real estate. And that's all they teach us. But we realized this when I started. Every time there was a hiccup in the economy or anything, we saw good people leave, and anybody. There was no retirement. There was no security, and no salaries involved in it. And I realized that we had to have something better. There had to be something added to that. So I saw a lot of people fail in the business, not because they failed, but just because the economy, the system set up was not good. So, dimension number 2, I'd gone to a meeting with my brother. He was in the Amway business, and so I saw things that I'd never seen in real estate, and I'd been to all the conventions and trying to learn, And I got back and I thought, there's thousands of people in that hotel, and they were all excited about their new career, whatever they were doing, but they had a system in it that wasn't offered in the real estate industry, and that was a multi-level compensation program. So there was no limit on what an agent could do and how much he could make. And so I worked on that for 20 years before we finally figured out. It came to me one day how to do it. How do you create a system that the agents can do anything they want to do in our business? And so that's been a big hit. We finally put it together, and in fact, I'm trying to get a lawyer to perfect it now. And but for our purposes, small companies works fine. The third dimension was we developed subdivisions. We did everything in the business, and finally, my daughter. I've got 3 daughters, a son and 3 daughters. But my oldest daughter was now 55-year-old mama. She was kind of a pain when she was 15 or 16, and so
We all were.
so I told her you have to come to the office every day and hang out with me. And so I was a mortgage broker at the time, and I would send her to the courthouse to look up owner-held mortgages. That was before the computers. So she was there, and she had a cute little personality. Everybody loved her, so you let her have a little desk in there. She came to me one day and she said, "Dad," she said, "I wish we had some money so we could buy it." Some of these foreclosures, said, "There's people down there buying them and they're making money." So I said, "Well, honey, we can probably dig up enough money to buy a couple of cheap ones," and we did. And we had some success in this up and down because we didn't know what we were doing, and we were making mistakes. And so finally, we put together a program, and what it was came up with a plan that how do you pay the agents to do this? How do you get the agents involved? And because they're working away with the initiative, one to get a listing and inviting their friends to come and build a network. But dimension number 3 is a unique thing that we created. What it is we tell the agents to ride around and find a vacant house. Okay, just go a different way home. Just find a vacant house. When you do, just get the address, and we look it up, find out who owns it, and then we run it through our something she created, our deal killer form, which we put it all in there. So if we buy it, the agent gets a listing back from the property, and we get 15% of the profit. And our goal was to teach them how to learn to create wealth in this business because you can. And it's available, but you got to have it approved. That's what we do. So we focus a lot on dimension 1, 2, and 3. And number 4 is I went to Missouri Officer School in 1990 with our former sheriff. He and I drove there. But anyway, I just wanted to show you this because if you hear agents that are looking for an opportunity, we really want to grow the business. I've got 2 or 3 more years I want to do this, and we really want to grow it. So now we do a lot with the mobiles and the monitors, and we put together a teaching and training system, and we wrote the books. We got manuals and things that we've written. And I was blessed to have 2 women that work with me. I wouldn't have done half what I've done. One of them came to help me out for 6 months. She stayed for 40 years. And so whenever she retired, in my 40th year, she rented a helicopter as a pilot and a photographer. She flew over all the projects that we've done and took pictures and gave me that book. Yeah. So anyway, we have a real diverse background in the business, and that means we made all the mistakes because we didn't have mentors then. And now we can do that with our people. We can help them. That's our dream and our goal. And so anyway, Robbie and them are here now. The mortgage folks are here. And Mike, share with us. I didn't mean to leave you out there, but I just want to get this up. Share with us what you did.
Basically is just spur of the moment. Nothing really thought out, which I noticed I made a mistake when I first started out making the video. But I just went out I actually live in Flagler Estates. So I went out to Guy Street and looked at the models there and made a video, posted it, and got inundated with messages, calls yesterday. So I got 3 people talking to Robbie at Academy for financing.
He's got 3 people in for financing, is what he's telling you, and it came from that video that he did 2 days ago. Okay, and so
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
And before that, what did you do?
I just started posting things. Immediately started posting on Facebook, and that's where quite a few leads have come in.
He started immediately from the time he put his license here. He started doing open houses and promoting his open houses on Facebook, and he went out there and did it. And he's got customers in for financing, and this is how creative you can get with this business. But I wanted to acknowledge him, what he did, because I've got a lot of people, and we've got some good ones here. But that's a good lesson, Mike, and I appreciate you sharing that information with us and everybody here. If everybody would ask him, let him show you what he did, because there are customers out there, and he's found one way to get them, and we don't use the video thing enough. We don't do it.
Not to mention the lot you listed.
Oh, correct. Yes.
Hours. Yeah. How many hours before the contract came in?
Yeah, I went to Publix. I worked for Publix. I went to Publix. I handed out all my cards. I got a listing before I walked out the door and listed it and had an offer in 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Put it in MLS. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this has all happened within the last couple of weeks, okay? That he's done multiple open houses, all right? And he's got customer base built from that. He's got people in for financing, and he's getting inundated with phone calls now off of the videotape that he did yesterday and put it up on Facebook. So
yeah, I'm not very photogenic on the video, so that's why I'm going to get Wendy to do the next one.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
She doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Thanks, Mike. That's a really good job.
Very good job.
And Caleb, when are you going to take that test?
The 15th.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. We're so proud of you, buddy. We're really on your team.
Yeah.
And my brother Roland came in, and my sister-in-law Glenda, and they have Roland Pacetti Realty in Palatka. And we won't hold that against them because they can play. Now that's where Roland and I started. We started we opened our first office in Palatka August the 1st, 1966. Okay, I'd worked a couple of years before that as an agent. But anyway, we're just blessed to have great people, and we thank everybody for coming. Robbie, are y'all ready to go?
Just waiting on the others. So it's just me for now. But
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
so if you get to give us a little bit more time, they're out getting the food. So
Now,
be ready soon.
where Mike got here, how Mike got here, was this wonderful lady. This is realtor. She sells him a lot and
A lot in a home, yeah.
and a lot in a home. In the meantime, she recruits him, asking if he'd be interested in real estate, and so he's in her network. And so she is, now, every time you do that here, you get a 5% raise, or it went all the way down to 10 levels deep with 8%. So anyway, it get paid for recruiting and becoming a mentor. You know, now he's got as good a teacher as there is here, right, with Joan. And so that just worked fine. But that's how it started. She asked him if he had any interest in real estate, or he told her he was thinking about it. She followed it through. He took the course. He got the license. Now he can do it. He's doing it. So Caleb is going to be great, and then Aya is just getting started. She brings another dimension to us, her family relationships, and so we're just excited about that. And Pastor Taylor, he's the expert down in South St. Johns County, and so we're glad to have everybody. And my friend David, who's filming for us, Dave Nails, has been a godsend to us. And so we videotape these and we put it up on YouTube. And so you know, if anybody will use it for training, we got it. And so we always ask everybody if it's okay. Put your mugshot up there because it's going up there. You know. So Robbie is waiting on his 2 cohorts from Academy Mortgage, and they're a good company. They do it all. They do all of the down payment assistance programs, and just really know the business. And so right now, the interest rate changes, we're watching every little thing, and so we'll find out today what rates we can quote and so forth, the latest. So,
Let me ask you, have you guys heard of the app called Landglide?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah, it's amazing. I've used it for,
Yeah, I wanted to show you that as well.
you know, commercial sign locations and things, because I have to get permission, you know, but I love writing them, you know, and figuring out who owns
Isn't that fun?
them.
It is.
we have another
It's a
thing
great
called
resource.
forewarn, so we can ride down the street and look at Landglide, find out who owns the property, look at forewarn, see, get the phone numbers on the phone while you're just right there.
What's it called, Forewarn?
Forewarn, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a product of, it's created, I think, because there was realtors doing open houses, especially women that were putting themselves maybe in danger. And so the intent is not to go out to show people property that if you know their name, you can check them, out, find out a lot about them.
Yes, it gives like criminal history and stuff like that too.
Wow.
So.
So,
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that.
yeah, they did get in the forewarn thing, our board of realtors furnishes that, so. It doesn't cost us anything to do that. So Glenda, you got anything to add to that? We're waiting on our mortgage people.
Our
And,
AC,
Then we're going to lunch, my sister,
they said maybe a week,
she's
because they need a new
87
motor.
today.
So we can't use our AC until the new motor comes in.
Yeah, she's good.
Are your kids in real
You should have
estate
seen
as well?
the disaster.
She did work with me
The
for a long
sprinkler
time.
guys
She's
did to our
good.
yard yesterday.
Excuse me, not able to do it now, but she,
And your
Yeah,
children,
she
your
covered.
daughters and your son, are they in real estate?
2 of them. And I'll tell you.
Bruce is
I
gonna
would,
call him after he finds out
texting
exactly
property
how long, because they're figuring out how long they can get the motor.
So
He's
we're
like,
doing
"We
that,
can't stay
and
here."
the lady that worked on it for 4 years, she's retired now, but she,
Our bill was
she's
over
Jacksonville.
$200.
affordability.
I know. It's happening. And I said, our bill's gonna be
See, we
insane.
always thought we could
because
do Duval because it was so,
no,
they had
the
the online
$125
option,
bucks.
and it was,
It's like
and there were just, you know,
$275.
hundreds,
Like,
you would
it's
have
because it's
400
trying to kick on, and
one
it's not
day,
working.
you know. So there were just so many. And there didn't used to be very many in St. John's.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
This is a lot.
Yeah, that's great.
And get more.
Oh, and the sprinkler guys, because
Tax,
our
tax
whole
is
yard.
not
And then
gonna
when
be.
we pieces everywhere, Bruce called the landlord and was like,
Tax certificate.
you get a bill for like $2,400, and I'm telling you right now, this is not professional, and all this work of landscaping we've done to the yard is shock. Yeah.
Yes, ours. Just don't know where
Oh, one thing, before we get too far gone. We got a lot of listings up here that I think everybody has an interest in. If you don't, let me know. But the one house in Flagler Estates that was in contract has fallen through, right, Taylor?
Correct.
Okay.
Baylor.
Y'all need to go look at it. You need to get pictures, you need to publicize it, and we have, how many of those houses do we have? Two?
That size,
1360.
You got three,
right?
three or at least three.
You can get in this house now to look at it, is my point, and it's got our lockbox on, it's 2468. But you need to go look at that one, because that one ain't gonna be there long, okay? And they're just finishing it up now, and it looks really good, okay? The lot is super nice, and, but, how much are those?
240.
240? 240,000 for the home lot package. Now, we'll learn all about the financing in a minute, but you can buy the home with no money down, if you have the right credit score, and otherwise have good credit and so forth. But now, Mike, that's what Mike was doing. Mike took the video of some of those houses and put it out on Facebook yesterday, and he's been inundated with phone calls of people that need us. They need us. They need our product that we have, and they need the financing and the expertise that we have. Okay, that's how we can help them the best. So that's what we do. We have some investors that we do this with, and so they're there. The houses are there. We've got 3 or 4 more that are in the process, and we have some that we're rehabbing, and so that we do. So that's part of the program that we have. You know, the program is, frankly, it's a big program, and our goal is to keep on adding to the things that we learned, you know, the hard way, and making it a training opportunity for our people. I found out how to get to heaven. Yeah, no question about it. I went to get in a car, and he's passed away now, so I have to be careful what I say about him, because he was my good friend. He was our sheriff, Francis O'Loughlin, years ago. Got in a truck with him, and we drove to Kansas City, Missouri. We both decided we'd go to auction school. Stay in the same room with him for 2 weeks. Go to the same classes with him. Get in that same truck and drive back home. And by the time you get back home, if you don't kill him, you go straight to heaven. You're a saint. Oh, we had fun. We had fun. It was a learning experience for sure. But these bottom 2 are the ones that we do the most of, the mobile home. We had a meeting yesterday with some people about the modulars. We used to build a lot of modulars. We're going back to that because we can put them in the residential zones, you know. And, are you girls ready?
Yep.
No,
ready.
Are we the first? Are we the first?
you're up. You're up.
Oh, we're the last one. Last is first. All right.
Make sure y'all introduce yourself. This is Ms. Woolsey. She's running for
Hi,
county
Casey Woolsey.
judge.
Hi, Casey. Rachel with Academy Mortgage.
You want the light on?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, that would be like.
Oh, wow, look at all these smelling faces. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good morning.
Robbie, you wore that cap, and I swear I thought the boy must not have any hair.
Well, you know, in due time, it's going to go.
No, you're doing good.
Enjoy while it lasts,
You're
right?
doing good. We, yeah. Hey, Teetsy, how are you today?
Wow.
How are you?
This is a full, beautiful house this morning.
You looking better?
Yes, it's looking fantastic. So for those of you who we've not met before, I'm Rachel with Academy Mortgage. I'm the sales manager for the Jacksonville and Pensacola offices, and then Teachy and I and Robbie are the hometown team. So the three of us together are a mortgage team, and I think most all of you have probably met Teachy, but Robbie's been with us now for over a year. And
I
we're
met you guys at hello.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all. No, I see some familiar faces out there, so
yeah,
I
super
mostly
proud
know.
of Robbie.
Yeah.
It's also Robbie's birthday today, so the good news is you guys all get to eat cake, right?
My sister's
So-
birthday, y'all get to eat lunch.
Lunch and cake. I mean, come on.
I'm
We're
talking
done.
about, we're going to Red Lobster. My sister's 87 years old today.
87 years old. Well, bless her heart. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
so we're having lunch for her.
Quite the milestone. Quite the milestone. Well, I know you guys have the best teacher and mentor right here in Mr. Terry Pacetti, and that I'm sure that you're drinking in everything he has to teach all. But I just wanted to share a few things with you guys this morning that we're seeing out in the market that I think will help you position for the most recent market correction. And we call it the most recent market correction because those of us who, touch our hair up a little bit, we've been through a few. And so in this particular situation, it's a little bit different, right? Because in 2008, if any of you were around in 2008, we know that it was, mortgage product related and risky lending, and people weren't being qualified. And as a result of that, when it came down to the nuts and bolts of it, people couldn't stay in their homes because their payments were accelerating, property values decelerated too quickly, and then people were upside down in their homes because we had negative amortization mortgages out there. We had interest-only products out there. We had products that were less than interest-only, so they weren't even paying the interest. Interest was coming in on top. So after the market crashed, all of that stuff got swept away, and Congress said, you can't do a mortgage now unless you call it a qualified mortgage. What that meant was we have to demonstrate ability to repay. Well, as the market got a little more comfortable, ability to repay became a much broader category. You saw your bank statement loans come back. You saw your self-employed 1099 only loans come back. But they still qualified as ability to repay because we are documenting in those types of loans that this particular borrower has an income stream and does have the ability to repay. What didn't come back was your no-doc loans. Show me your credit score, verify at closing you have a pulse, and you're good to go. Those loans went away. So now this particular market correction has more to do with interest rate than the previous market corrections. So as rates are rising and property values are accelerating, what we find is borrowers being able to get qualified is having an inverse relationship. So as rates go up, borrowers qualify for less, and one thing or two things has to happen. Either rates have to come back down, which we're not predicting, unless something catastrophic happens, which we don't want, or property values are going to have to level. So what we have been looking at, of course, in the lending industry is, well, how do you meet that demand, or how do you mitigate this inverse relationship right now with rising rates, still slightly accelerating property values, and how do you get people qualified? The word affordable housing is the buzzword now. We need more affordable housing. We gotta have affordable housing. Affordable housing is relative, right? It's relative to wages, it's relative to the job market and your particular market demographic. We're really blessed in North Florida, I think. We have the military bases in North Florida. We have large employers in North Florida. But your average person that works at that huge Amazon warehouse is making $15, $16, $17 an hour. Unless they're in upper management, there's only so many of those positions, right? So as a lender in our industry, what we have to figure out is, well, how do we keep the market moving? How do we keep it's slowing down? We all recognize the slowdown, but how do we re-accelerate, or how do we mitigate these situations? And so what you're seeing come back in the market is you're going to see adjustable rate mortgages come back in the market. So for a very long time, those were out of the market and not being utilized at all. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, well, what is the difference between adjustable rate and fixed rate, and how does it help your buyer be able to purchase in a situation where we're in right now? So we'll talk a little bit about that. Then secondly, when you're looking at fixed rate opportunities, how can you best leverage a seller credit? Because we're seeing contracts left and right now, whereas sellers said, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to need the buyer to pay my closing costs, even to consider your offer, you know? And now the market's just that fast, the market switched a little bit, and now the sellers are like, okay, well, let's talk. Let's have a conversation about this, because, you know, I'm now 34 days on the market, and I need to start the conversation. I need to get some conversation moving. And so we're seeing that relationship come back to what I would call a normal buyer-seller market, where buyers and sellers are negotiating, they're having conversations, and they're making deals make sense. So we're going to talk a little bit about how would you best leverage a seller credit to help your borrower qualify in our current market. And then finally, we're going to talk about down payment assistance, because when inflation's up and prices are up and rates are up, credit card payments go up. Anything that's not in a fixed rate is moving up, you know. So our folks that, you know, have credit card debt that they haven't been able to eradicate, it's tough right now, because those payments are going up, you know, month by month. They're just going up a little bit. So what do? You know, how do you help them to be able to navigate in this market? Rents are going up. I don't know what it is in St. Johns County specifically, but I can share with you that each and every week, TG or Robbie or I will get a phone call. Distraught. People are distraught because they've just been notified by their landlord that their $1,400 a month rent is about to go up to $2,100 a month. And they can't do it. And they are stressed out. And what they're telling me, they're like, Rachel, look, if I can't buy a house, I'm going to end up having to move my family to someplace that I don't want my family to have to be, because rents are accelerating.
Amen.
And so, you know, our role as a lending professional and as realtors, we're now, you know, we're involved in huge life decisions. Where are their kids going to go to school? Where are they going to raise their families? My customer last week said, and she, you know, she's a single lady. She said, I can't live where I can afford the rent. It's not safe. I won't be able to sleep at night if I have to live there. So, you know, teaching Robbie and I, you know, we get our pencil out and we're going to work. What can we do? How can we do it? So we're going to talk about down payment assistance, because when everything is going up, savings goes down, and people need down payment assistance now more than ever. And there's a very specific program that I think is going to help a lot of people, and it's going to provide a lot more down payment assistance. We're rolling out a new program too for some other counties, some counties that surround here, Bradford County, Escambia County, Alachua County. There's some specific programs rolling out for those counties that I think would be helpful. So let's talk first about adjustable rate mortgages. Terry knows all about them. He's been around a long time. I'm sure he's seen those. The ones that you're going to see coming into the market now are what we would call traditional adjustable rate mortgages. They're going to be principal and interest. It's not going to be your interest-only type things that we saw in previous markets. But the difference right now between a fixed rate and an adjustable rate mortgage can sometimes be 0.375 to 0.5%. And that does not sound like a whole lot. However, when you equate that to a monthly payment, I'm just going to give you an example on $350,000, because it's going to make more sense if you see the difference. So if a fixed rate mortgage today is 5.75 on a $350,000 mortgage, your principal and interest is $2,042. So if they go into a 7-year adjustable rate, that rate could be about 0.5% lower, so about 5.25 in that example. And a 7-year adjustable rate would mean that that loan is fixed in for 7 years. That rate will not adjust, it will not change. Now the payment's $1,932.
Well,
Okay, so The difference between the two is going to be the difference in how much house they can purchase. And that becomes important when you're in a market where, you know, you have a client that maybe is at that $225, $230 price point, and we just can't find anything right now. The difference in the bridge between those two rates may push that same client up to $325, $330, $340. Now you have some opportunity to get the client into a home. But what happens after 7 years? Well, as the realtor, you want to have a basic knowledge of that. And there's all, you can Google anything now. Google's amazing. I Google stuff all day long. My team calls me, Rachel, what's the guideline on that? I don't know, let me ask Google. And then, you know, kind of thing. But my point in saying that is, what they need to understand is adjustable rate mortgages really are for people who are transitional. And what I mean by transitional, maybe they're in the military and they're here on 3 years orders. Well, for 3 years, if they're in a 7-year fix, that's a good decision. Because now they're going to be secure for the time that they have the home. They know they're going to get orders out of here, and then they still have 4 years left on their fixed rate. What we don't want to message to our buyers is that just do this for now, and in 7 years, you refinance. It's not a problem. If anyone in here knows what is going to happen to interest rates in 7 years, I want you to meet me in the parking lot after, because I'm going to need some lottery numbers from you and some other information on the stock market. Right? You can't set that expectation. Adjustable rate mortgages are for people who have a plan, and the plan really has to be, it has to make sense, because refinance is not always an option. People's credit changes, people's employment changes, people's health changes. People get catastrophic health issues that, you know, I mean, we have a file right now. We're trying to help an attorney who is just in a catastrophic health situation and has had to leave his employment. So he currently has no employment. He's got lots of equity, but no employment. It's a difficult situation. So many dynamics can impact whether someone can refinance down the road. So it's really important that when you're talking to clients about, you know, their lender said, hey, you know, just take this adjustable rate mortgage. What's your plan? How are you going to transition out of this? Because what happens after 7 years, depending on the margins and the caps, these loans do have caps. They're not going to jump up 10, 15% at a time, but they may jump up 2%. If it's a 2-1, meaning it can jump up 2%, and it'll stay fixed at that for a year. There are 2 and 5 caps where it could jump up 2% for 5 years in a row. You have to know. So that's the lender's job to explain to the customer. But what I want you guys to be prepared for is you're going to start hearing adjustable rate mortgages, adjustable rate mortgages.
Are you doing adjustable rate mortgages now?
We are. They're coming back into the market. Yeah, we are. What we're praying will come back into the market very soon is your government adjustable rate mortgages, because those are really the safest ones. Those are we call them 1-5 caps, meaning the rate could only go up 1% at a time per adjustment, and those are traditionally much more favorable to a client. But adjustable rate mortgages are back, and you're going to hear that term a lot until we see this inverse relationship between rate and value come down a little bit.
The adjustable rate mortgage is the principal going up on the interest accruing?
No.
The lowest.
Those are all gone.
So it's fixed.
Fixed principal and interest payments. So they're paying down, and I had a really good that I'm going to email out to y'all. I had a really good flyer that demonstrated how principal is paid down in an adjustable rate mortgage.
If anybody would like to go out to my car in Argyle in Orange Park, they're there. It was my fault.
TG and I had we've had a challenging couple of days, so our flyers are in Orange Park, but I will get them to you. There may be some hybrid adjustable rates that come back to the market. I don't know that there will be very many lenders that have a risk tolerance for those. So the ones that Terry was asking about are back previously, as I was talking about earlier, where they would not be paying toward principal. They would be either paying interest only, or it would have a negative amortization where they're not even quite paying all the interest, and so it's just building. And those are all gone, or they should be gone, based on qualified mortgage legislation that passed back in 2010. Any questions on adjustable rates or how you would want to present that to your buyers? Yeah.
Are there any red flags, if you will, of someone you shouldn't even bring it up to? Like, not even a good idea to even utter it?
I would say someone whose ratios are already tight. I mean, these adjustable rate mortgages are going to be looked at more carefully. Your lower credit scores are probably not going to benefit from it, because the spread between the fixed rate and the adjustable rate won't be enough for it to make sense. And I will tell you from our perspective, we're very conservative in that regard. If the spread between an adjustable rate and a fixed rate for a particular customer on a particular day, depending on market condition, is not significant, we're always going to advise that customer to stick with a fixed rate. Stick with what you know. And then I would say the other risk factor that I would be aware of when you're talking to a client about adjustable rate mortgage is that they really truly get with their lender and understand when it will adjust, how it will adjust, and what their new payment will be, worst case scenario on the first adjustment. And if they can't pay that payment or don't feel comfortable with what that payment will be on that first adjustment, that is not the correct line for them to go in.
Explain to them how it adjusts when you say a 5-1.
So adjustable rate mortgages are based on a formula called index plus margin equals rate. So your index is going to be some of them are tied to the LIBOR, some of them are tied to the Treasury. There's an index that these arms are tied to. Government arms are generally tied to the Treasury. Okay, that's your index. So if today your index is 4% when you go into your adjustable rate mortgage, but in 5 years from now that index is 5.25%, well, that's the first part of your formula, index. And then margin is, I'm writing in the air. So margin is how much can it adjust on the first adjustment. So you've got your index plus your margin. Margin on a government is usually 1%. So it's not going to go up more than 1% on your first adjustment. So you would take your index plus 1%, that's your new rate.
What determines when it adjusts?
What determines when? The length of your arm. If it's a 3-year arm, your first adjustment would happen in
3 years.
3 years. 5-year arm, first adjustment in 5 years. 7-year arm, 7 years. The best rate's going to be on the shorter arm, right? Because from a lending perspective, lower risk, higher reward for a lender, right? That first adjustment's coming in 3 years. So that's going to be your best rate, because we only have to secure that fixed part for 3 years. Then you move down the spectrum, you're in your 7-year, you may not have as big a spread. Depending on credit score, though, we're seeing about 0.5%, depending on credit score. In these higher credit score ranges, higher loan amount ranges, it could be about 0.5% difference, which we just talked about how that equates to payment. So index plus margin equals rate. And I wouldn't expect anyone in the room to sit down and have that conversation with your customer, but the conversation you want to have as a realtor with your customer is this. Did your lender explain to you what will happen when your loan is no longer fixed? Do you understand, and are you comfortable? And if those answers are no, they didn't explain it, no, I don't know what it will be, and we're going to make the assumption for them that they're probably not comfortable or they shouldn't be comfortable,
Yeah.
right?
What I think is a big benefit of the program is that person that's got a car payment, okay, it's going to be paid off next year or 2 years. Right now, they need that. So we're blessed with great mortgage people that have the experience to be able to discuss that with your customer and work that out, if that's possible. All right, they're looking at the credit, and they're also looking at the debt structure, debt to income, and if that makes it where you can adjust that for a couple of years, And if that benefits the customer, they're gonna get something paid off or paid out or whatever. Make a huge difference in us getting people approved that otherwise we would not get approved. Okay, and so we're blessed.
Absolutely.
I would think student loans too, that might be a thing. I know people my age, you know, we're all nearing the end of paying off our student loans, so that might be something that when you don't have that payment anymore, you could handle a adjustment.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's a perfect example. So, both great examples, the car being paid off, student loans, even better example, you know, cars get paid off and then people go buy new cars. And or new trucks, right, Rowie?
Yeah. Maybe anybody is anticipating getting a large pay raise down the road as well. That could always help as well.
Yeah. You know, and we've seen, you know, adjustable rate mortgages really make sense for someone who, just exactly what Rowie said, they're finishing up getting their RN certification. So they're a CNA or an LPN right now making X number of dollars per hour, but a year from now they're going to be making a great deal more money. And so, you know, it's a positional loan, and they are coming back. You're going to see more and more of them. But I still feel, you know, we're very conservative in nature because I want to see long-term success when people get into a mortgage. It just has to make sense and it has to be explained well. And if you don't have a realtor partner that is walking side by side with you to make sure that these customers know exactly what they're getting into, it can lead to trouble down the road. So now, category number 2. So we're seeing, as we said, you know, we're seeing that the properties are staying on the market just a little bit longer. Certain price points, you know, lower price points are still, you know, getting hammered pretty hard, but the little bit higher price points. And we've had that transition now, that very quick transition where it switched back to not a seller's market, but a buyer-seller market, meaning there's a buyer-seller conversation going on. And what we're seeing is strategic utilization of a seller credit. And we're having some of our realtor partners actually put into the contract, the seller will pay 2 discount points for the buyer for the sole purpose of buying down the rate. And we are finding great success with that model because it helps the seller to understand you're not just given a blanket credit, it's a specific credit, and it's going to be used for the benefit of the buyer to reduce their payment, reduce their rate, and to allow them to be able to purchase your home at the price point that you have it listed at. And it's being utilized more and more and more as a selling tool by buyers agents. And I actually have some listing agents that are putting it in their listing comments now. Seller will pay up to 2 discount points for the purpose of buying down the buyer's interest rate. Now, what does that really mean? You know, how do you transition that? I'll give you a live example. We have a veteran that because the seller contribution was 2 points, we were able to buy the veteran's interest rate down to 4.75 in this market. 4.75.
But that doesn't have any impact on the closing costs.
It does not. The veteran still had to pay his own closing costs, but the points that were utilized to buy his rate down were paid by the seller.
Right.
Now this veteran, instead of qualifying, in this particular example, instead of qualifying in the high 400 range, he was able to purchase the home that he wanted in the low 600s. That's how much of a difference it made. That's how much of a difference it made. Now, it doesn't always make that much difference because you've got many, many variables. You've got credit score, you've got property type, you've got loan type. But it does make a difference. Buying those discount points for a buyer will make a huge difference. And if you can leverage the seller to do that, you're going to find that your buyers are going to qualify for a little bit more. It's going to get them to that next price point where they may find a home that's going to meet their needs.
Write it into your contract, okay, so you can build it into the price. And so you don't have to deal with it after the fact. You know, if your seller's willing to do that.
We're actually putting out pre-approval letters that say, if you get seller contribution toward discount points, this is your pre-approval amount. If you don't have the seller contribution and you're not able to pay the discount points, because some buyers, again, you know, savings is going down, prices are going up. and it's pressuring long-term savings accounts. We're seeing people have to withdraw from their 401ks, etc., to buy a home. So we're giving them two options. If you can get discount points from the seller, here's your price point. If you can't, and you can't pay the discount points, here's your price point.
In the example you just gave, what's the value? What's that amount for the 2 discount points?
It can be, it depends on the loan type. So government loans, discount points get you a little bit better benefit for it. Depends on the credit score. Depends on the property type. Manufactured homes, which our team specializes in, and you guys specialize in, you don't get that big of a bridge on a manufactured home because there's so many pricing adjustments just for the property type. But you talk about a single family home or a modular home, I mean, you may get the difference of, in that example, it was 0.625 difference in the rate. 0.625.
And what does that cost the seller? Like, what's the
a percentage of the loan amount of the sales price. So if it's a $300,000 home, 1 point is 1%. So in that example, it would be 2% or $6,000. So the seller can discount the sales price by that and maybe negotiate that way, or hold the sales price, which does two things for us as lenders and as realtors. We stabilize the market at a certain point when we do that. When sellers start cutting those prices, and then we've got buyers coming in, what's the next thing that happens? We cry when the appraisal comes in, right? Because our comparable sales start going down. And it's not that we want to accelerate prices. We recognize that accelerating prices is probably not a good thing where we are with interest rates, but we do want to stabilize prices so that it can be somewhat predictable. We want to have a predictable appraisal. If you're listing a property and your CMA says this is what this property is worth today, 30 days from now, you would like to feel confident that that's still what it's worth 30 days from now, and that that prices are not decelerating at such a pace where you're going to be dealing with low appraisals and so on and so forth. So it really creates two situations. It's going to help stabilize price points a little bit. It's going to help your borrowers and buyers qualify for a little bit more, so that they can get to those price points where you can help them find what they're looking for. And the long-term benefit to the buyer is the lower payment. So it's all kind of benefits, but it has to be negotiated in your contract up front, and it's a really important part, and it's very important to be specific. Because if you just put in a blanket seller credit, what's the lender going to do? They're going to cover that buyer's closing costs, and they're going to reduce the buyer's closing costs. That's what any lender would do if it's just a blanket credit. But if it's a specific credit and has to be used for a specific purpose, then that's what it's going to get used for. So any questions on that, the value of that, how you would strategically employ that in your working with your buyers and actually working with your sellers, really?
Do you have a one sheet on that?
You have a one sheet?
Yeah,
It's in
like
our
what
car.
you just said, have you reduced it to a one sheet so they can kind of look at it?
flyer.
I was taking notes as fast as I could.
Oh, a flyer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. A one sheet. I like that. I will get one developed.
It's probably in my car.
I will develop us a one sheet.
Can you go get them?
There you go, right?
We'll wait.
I got my jogging shoes.
Expressway. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is, and I know Joan has told me that you guys are seeing signs all around, and you might not have a flyer up there, but I know you've been getting the flyers in your deployments called, it's the program that was released by Florida Housing called Hometown Heroes. So how many of you have seen that logo, seen that flyer, okay, perfect, good. All right. How many of you think that the down payment assistance portion of Hometown Heroes is $25,000? Teachy does. All right, cool. Well, good, because you've got the right answer. It's not. It can be. It can be. So this program rolled out, and it merged with another program that we had for a few years called Salute to Soldiers. And Salute to Soldiers was designed only for veterans. And that particular program the down payment assistance has gone back into on that. It was $7,500, then it went to $10,000, and then it went to 15, and then back to 10. It's been all over the place. But the benefit to that program was this. A lot of the fees were waived by Florida Housing for that particular program because we wanted to benefit our veterans. So the origination fee that Florida Housing charged was waived, and then they didn't have to pay note stamps or intangible stamps. So depending on the purchase price, I mean, you're talking a savings to a veteran of anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 just in waived fees. So the governor and Florida Housing Authority got together and said, we need to benefit more people. There's a lot of hard workers out there. There's frontline workers out there. There's police officers. There's nurses. We need to be able to benefit more people. And so they merged this program and they called it Hometown Heroes. Now, Hometown Heroes is going to, today the interest rate, well, I say today, yesterday, the interest rate was 5.125 on a 30-year fixed rate. 5.125. Current market rate for a VA loan is going to be higher than that, significantly higher than that. We had two price adjustments just yesterday alone. So fixed rate at 5.125, you have reduced fees, so no origination, no note, no intangible. But it opened it up to a broader spectrum of potential beneficiaries of the program. Now, the value of being a veteran with that program is you do not have to be a first-time home buyer. You do not have to be a first-time home buyer. Nurses, police officers, CNAs, LPNs, school teachers, occupational therapists. If you can think about it this way, if they're in the medical profession and it requires a license, they're probably on the list.
Daycare workers.
Daycare workers who work for a licensed daycare. The daycare has to be legit and licensed. It can't be Aunt Susie operating out of her garage with no license, and it has to be like a legit roof and license, like a licensed facility.
Those workers qualify for that?
Those workers qualify.
Mental health.
Mental
health providers, I
Yeah.
think.
Mental health, licensed mental health counselors,
Social workers.
social workers. If you can think of anyone who is serving the community in the capacity of mental health, safety, education, firefighters, anyone who's serving the community in the capacity of any of those things, community-based healthcare, substance abuse in Clay County. I think a lot of you know, I sit on the board of directors for Clay Behavioral Health Center. We specialize in mental health and substance abuse services. Most everybody in that facility qualifies. There's a facility very similar to that in St. Johns County. Most everybody in that facility would qualify. But here's the interesting thing about Hometown Heroes. As much splash as it's had in the media, we're not seeing the high utilization rate. And I think it's because we need our realtor partners to really, really understand how the program works and to be able to offer it as an opportunity to bring buyers in. And so on a $300,000 purchase, they can get a 5% grant. So that's going to be $15,000. And here's the next most popular question. Well, how many years do they have to live there before it's forgiven? It's never forgiven. They refinance the house, that $15,000 goes back to the program. If they sell the house, that $15,000 goes back to the program. Okay?
So let me understand, is that $15,000 a fixed amount that we're offering, or is it based on those?
5% of the loan amount, so it differs for every sales price.
Okay.
So every sale is going to be different for the down payment assistance amount.
I'm glad you're here, right?
I know, I mean, I need him.
And it is first-time home buyers only?
It is for some home buyers only, unless you're a veteran, and then you have a veteran exception. Here's where the program got really user-friendly. You know, with our Florida housing programs that we've talked about before, it's based on household income. So, if we had an FHA borrower who was married, but let's say their spouse wasn't on the loan for credit reasons or whatnot, it didn't matter. We still had to count the spouse's income in our household income calculation to get that down payment assistance. So maybe our borrower was making $50,000 a year, you know, as an electrician, and his wife was making $35,000 a year as a CNA. Well, together they were over the income limit. So it made it a little challenging trying to get those done, because household income means anybody over 18 years of age is in the house. So if mom or dad or grandma or grandpa is living in the house, we had to count it. So it got a little bit challenging. So when they put Hometown Heroes together, what they said was, we're not going to do that. If the applicant is under the income limit, which is $118,000 per year, if the applicant is under the limit, we don't care how much money anybody else in the household makes, the applicant is going to get the assistance. And that was a huge, huge win for homeownership, for affordable housing, for getting borrowers the help they need to bridge the down payment and the closing costs. Now, if you've got a veteran at a $300,000 price point, $15,000 is pretty well going to cover all their closing costs, because their closing costs are minimized, remember? And it's going to put money toward their down payment. So it's going to leverage their payment down. If you have someone who qualifies for USDA out here in St. Johns County, that same client would have $15,000 to cover all those closing costs and still leverage money toward down payment. You have a FHA borrower who needs 3.5% down. Now you've got that down payment covered and a little bit of money left over to go toward some closing costs. So you don't necessarily need a big push now from the seller. We're finding $3,000-$4,000 seller contribution from sellers now is getting most borrowers into these homes with very little out of pocket. But let's bust a myth. Let's bust a myth. I like to do that. How many times have you heard, if you use down payment assistance, you will not need any money out of pocket? It's all covered. You don't need anything. I hear it all the time. You know who I hear it from? My customers who are calling me. My realtor said that down payment assistance will cover everything. I don't need anything, so why are you asking me for an appraisal fee? Because here's the 3 things we know they're going to need at minimum, right? We know they're going to need a binder deposit to take the property off the market so the seller feels confident that we're serious. That could be $1,000-ish, sometimes more, right? And then we know they're going to have to pay for an appraisal. Appraisals right now are going up. We're really battling appraisal costs, because we're going to see that get better, though, because as demand goes down, price will come back down. When demand is at its highest and we have a limited pool of people who are certified and qualified to go do these, they're going to charge what they charge, right? So we'll see appraisal prices come back down. I think that's going to be a good byproduct of the market correction. But then the other thing that they need is a home inspection. A home inspection. How many realtors in the room right now have a horror story based upon someone waiving the right to a home inspection? Agreed. It is no fun for you. It is no fun for your lender. We are big advocates of home inspections, because you know who gets the phone call when the roof leaks? Rachel, and then Teachy, because I'm like, Teachy, can you please help this customer, because their roof is leaking, they're upset. And then we call the realtor, hey, did the home inspector not see the leak? Like, why is the roof leaking? Rachel, they waived the right to the home inspection. They waived it. Okay, so now the customer has no recourse, and we have a leaky roof. And what do home buyers who are really tight on their funds going in have no money to do when they get there? Pay for repairs. Pay for repairs. And
new houses. That's why we like our new houses.
That's why we love our new houses, unless they're built by a certain builder, which we'll talk about on a later date. Yeah, I'm sure you do, because I also field those phone calls. So my point in saying this is, you want to set the right expectation. Hometown Heroes is an amazing tool, and not enough people that are qualified for it are utilizing it. But if we leverage it correctly, it will help get people into homes. But at minimum, your customer is going to need $1,500, $2,000 out of pocket, at minimum. to cover their binder, their home inspection, their appraisal. So there is no such thing as a zero out-of-pocket mortgage unless your seller is going to pay for those things up front, which I guess at some point the market may turn and you could negotiate that, right? But it's not there yet. Not that I've seen. So we have Hometown Heroes. We still have Florida Assist, which is $10,000. So if someone's not qualified as a Hometown Hero, it does not mean that there's no assistance for them. There is assistance, but it's $10,000. It's a set amount. $10,000, FHA, VA, conventional, USDA if qualified.
What credit scores?
So I have good news. I have breaking news, actually. You're going to want to hug me, but I got a little cough, so don't hug me. So right now, 640 is the minimum credit score for a single-family home for someone to get down payment assistance if they're otherwise qualified, right? They have to have ability to repay. We're still looking at credit. We're still looking at income. We're still looking at assets. We're looking at all of that. But from the perspective of being qualified for the assistance, a 640. Now, if they're doing a manufactured home, who can tell me what the score is for manufactured home?
680.
Yes. Yes. My breaking news is this. You know, we advocated for several years for Florida Housing to allow manufactured homes. They finally did, but they did it in very controlled and strict criteria. 680 credit score. We had to watch them for a couple years. We needed to make sure these loans were going to perform, that they weren't performing worse than our regular, you know, single family. And so we've got enough data in, and we've been advocating that 680 was a barrier to home ownership. It is a barrier to home ownership. Come October 1st, they're going to roll that credit score down for manufactured from 680 to 660. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a huge win. It's going to be a huge win.
650?
660.
660.
I know.
October 1st.
October
1st.
But we're
September.
so close. We're so close. I mean, you start looking with a client, you know, in September, they're not going to close till October, so we're told October 1, that credit score is going to go down. The other win on that is, not to break your brain, but debt to income ratio is a real factor with these housing loans because they're very strict. If it's single family and their score's above 680, well, we can push that debt to income ratio a little bit to 50%. That helps, especially when you have a non-borrowing spouse that might not be on the loan. You know, you've got other income in the house, and it just makes sense to do the loan, even though the ratio is a little bit higher. But if it was a manufactured home, not only do you have to have a 680, but you can't go over 45% debt to income ratio.
How
So
about modular? The modular.
modular is going to be treated just like single family. We don't care that it's modular. Everything single family applies to modular. Come October 1, not only they're going to roll the score back on manufacturer to 660, but they're going to allow that debt to income ratio to match the other programs.
To be what?
They're going to allow that debt to income ratio to go up to 50% if the borrower is qualified. They have to get approved at that. But those two things coupled together, when you think about it, when now we're calling and saying, look, I mean, we can't get this borrower above. I think we've got one now. You know, if they're buying a manufactured, we can't go above 200, just because it's a manufactured. Now, that property type is not going to have. Florida Housing recognized that because of the property type, it was creating a barrier to home ownership, and we needed to have that same flexibility with manufactured that we have with other property types. And so they're working really, really hard. Chip White, who runs Florida Housing for the state of Florida, he recognizes that manufactured home is a big piece of our affordable housing puzzle. And they're working really hard to advocate for programs that will allow manufactured that make sense. And I think that's going to be a big win, especially for this group, but a big win overall. So any questions on that part of it? All right. So what I hope to have left you with today is 3 things. A little bit of knowledge about adjustable rate mortgages and how they can help. Some strategy on maybe how you can write your buyer's offers to gain a little bit better long-term position for your buyer by utilizing discount points, and a better understanding of the Hometown Heroes program and who would qualify for that. and how beneficial that program really truly is.
What does 1% calculate to in the way of interest rate? 1% points.
It used to be, you know, back in our day,
Yeah.
when we were a little younger, that 1% would buy the rate down a quarter. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's very much market driven. On a certain day, 1% might get you a quarter. On the very next day, depending on what's happening in the bond market, 1% might get you more than that, it might get you less than that. So it doesn't equate to a quarter anymore. It used to, but it doesn't now.
How long does he lock in work?
Well, depending on the program, but for your Florida housing loans,
Hello.
those loans are locked for 60 days.
Yes.
For a
When do you lock?
Florida housing?
Whatever, any mortgage that we apply for. I just don't want our people to miss the locks, cause their customers to miss the lock, period.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have several programs, and most of your lenders out there now have some version of this program. But for Academy, we have some extended locks. We can lock up to 180 days. Now it does cost the customer a little bit up front, depending on if they want to extend, 90 days, 120 days, 180 days. It's called a lock and shop program. So you can actually lock in a rate for up to 6 months on a to be determined situation. Then if you're under contract, we have extended locks where we can lock in for extended periods of time without any upfront funds. But most lenders are going to have, at minimum, most lenders are going to have a 6-month, what they call lock and shop. So the borrower will pay a fee up front to secure that rate, and then have the opportunity, if the market improves down the road, to float down to an improved rate should the market improve. But what they've done is secure their position long term, and those are called extended locks or lock and shop.
That's a real important answer to a question, because we're about to crank our modular program back up. I met with some really great people yesterday about moving it along. We having a time getting the homes, okay? We've been so busy. I think it's loosening up a bit, but whether you could get the lock long enough to get the house, to get it done, get it completed was a question. That's why I asked that question, because we got to deal with that. It's not like we have the house. We got to get the house, and the house is, we have one factory that we're talking to that it's the best one for us price wise, but we're talking about 5 or 6 months getting the house. So you just don't lock the rate, is that what you do?
We would lock the rate in. It would be an extended rate lock. Okay, so we could lock the rate in, an extended rate lock. Now I will tell you, in your situation, in really in any situation where you're dealing with new construction, the builder or the investor or the developer can pay the upfront lock fee for the buyer. They can pay it for the buyer. And we very often, when we work with some of the bigger platted builders, that are building out in subdivisions, that's one of their their things right now. We'll pay for your extended lock. We'll write the check up front. It can be anywhere from a half a point to 1 point, depending on how long you're going to extend the rate lock out. And then again, it has a float down option. So should we see the market do something we're not anticipating, which is rates to come back down, the borrower would then have a chance to float down to the lower rate.
Construction perm loans, credit score.
So
For modular.
for modular, if you're looking at FHA, you're looking at minimum 660 now. Conventional are going to be a little bit higher on construction to perm, and I will tell you that construction to perm over the last 60 days has been one of the most impacted programs based on market condition, because most construction perms are not locked up front. So borrowers are having to qualify at maybe 2% above market rate, and it's really becoming challenging. So a lot of our construction to perm programs, we're seeing either them being halted, just wait for the market, they're not going to do them right now, or they're having us qualify the borrowers at about 2% above current market rate. And so when you do that, what happens? You're qualifying at a higher rate. So your qualifying amount comes down. And they're doing that as a risk-based decision because we don't know what rates are going to do. But the programs are there. I mean, they're available. We just have to fit the right program to the right borrower. And that's not going to work for every borrower. Yes, sir?
You were talking about adjustable rates.
Mm-hmm.
Once upon a time, before 2008, I had a loan that was adjustable. It could adjust 2 different periods at time at which you could adjust, but after that it was fixed for the rest of the life of it. Do
That's
you
called
have
a
anything
cap.
like that?
Yeah, it's called a cap. So some adjustable rates will have an index and a margin, meaning, you know, as we talked about, your index is whatever it's tied to, your margin is whatever your adjustment can be, but it also has a lifetime cap. And so if it hits that lifetime cap, whatever that percentage is, you know, whether it's 3%, 5%, 7%, once it hits that lifetime cap, it's done adjusting. So it'll hit that cap and it won't adjust any further past the cap. That's called a cap. Not all adjustable rate mortgages have a cap. So again, that's a wonderful question because not every adjustable rate mortgage has a cap. But what a cap does is it says once you hit that, you're done. You're done adjusting. You can't go any higher than that. So it's a threshold that you can't cross.
Yeah, that's a good thing to look for.
It's a good thing, yes. It is a good thing to look for. Adjustable rate mortgages in our current market with our accelerating, you know, I mean, I really think it has to be a strategic decision. Very strategic. Any other questions? Anything else you guys are seeing out in the market that you're like, you know, Rachel, what does this mean? What? Anything from a product or program perspective?
Oh, the 12-month bank statement thing. Can you explain how that works?
Absolutely. So when we first started talking this morning, we talked about, you know, back in 2008 what happened to the market, and then there was congressional action that created something called qualified mortgage. And we talked about the fact that qualified mortgage definition has gotten from this very narrow to a little bit more broad. As it broadened out, one of the programs that came into the marketplace to facilitate and assist self-employed individuals who take advantage of their tax write-off opportunities is called the bank statement program. And so the way the program works in principle is this. If you have a self-employed borrower, I'm going to use a truck driver because we see most often where you have independent contractor type truck driver type folks. They write off mileage, they write off fuel, they write it all off. And at the end of that write-off on that Schedule C, they look like they might not be able to feed their family at the end of the day. But we know that's not the case. We know that those are passive write-offs for the most part. And so this bank statement program will take one or the other. So you have to pick a lane. We'll take personal bank statements, add up all of the deposits for 1 year, because the assumption is what? Well, that's the money the guy's making, right? He's putting it in his bank. That's his money. So we're going to add up all the deposits for 1 year, and they're going to divide that by 12, and then that's the qualifying income. Or if he has a business account, 12 months business bank statements, so you can't blend them. They're going to add up all the business deposits for the year. So let's say that comes to $100,000 in deposits for the year. They're going to divide that by 12, and that's his qualified income.
So
And
what that won't add into that, and I was going to talk to you today after our meeting. So like you can't have your let's just say you use your personal, and you add up all the, in this case a truck driver, and you add up all his deposits, but you can't add into that factor any ACH deposits, which would be from an employment outside of the self-employed income. So you can't commingle both of those incomes. It's either one or the other, and if you're doing a bank statement, then it wouldn't be any of the employment income.
Yeah.
So that trips people up a lot because husband is W-2'd, wife isn't. It gets
so they add up all the non-payroll deposits in that particular example that Tisha just gave.
How about these? We have a guy in here, Mike's customer recently, and he doesn't have a bank account. He frickin' got cash.
That's not funny, y'all. There's a lot of people that don't have bank accounts. It's amazing.
He's got money.
Yeah, very talented young man, and he just doesn't like banks.
But he's a
We see
foreigner
that a lot.
and he doesn't believe in the bank system. But anyway, I told him that he had to go deposit the money for 2 months or something.
Yeah, so here, and I'll speak to this from a guideline perspective. So I don't want it to come across like, I'm telling you how to structure a situation, because we come across it a lot. I mean, I have clients who have safes at home. They trust that safe. They do not trust bank so-and-so. It's a commonality that we run into a lot. But from an agency guideline, and when I say agency, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, which oversees FHA, or VA, which oversees VA, USDA, which is rural development, their guideline is very cohesive with regard to how long someone's money needs to be in the bank before it is considered sourced and seasoned. And that is 2 full bank statements. So if our example put their money in the bank today, August, whatever this day is, 3rd, it's really going to be 3 months before that money is seasoned, because that first bank statement is going to show what? A giant deposit. And the underwriter's going to say, where did this giant deposit come from? And we're going to say, the safe in the closet. Because they don't like banks. And then your file just went off the rails. Right, now your file's off the rails. So it really is going to be about a 90-day cycle, because what happens is that money goes in the bank and it sits there. And then your next month's statement comes out and that beginning balance is whatever. And then your next month's statement comes out and then that beginning balance is the same. So then that borrower or that customer has had possession of those funds for an extended period of time. Now, what are they looking for? What is the lender, or what are these agencies looking for with these cash deposits, do you think?
They don't want you to borrow the money.
They don't want you to borrow the money, so they don't want any undisclosed liabilities, right? Did you borrow that money from somebody and you got to make that monthly payment, but you're just not telling us? Because what is that? It impacts your ability to repay. Or
Money laundering.
Money laundering, yeah. Hopefully we don't see too much of that.
Somebody else, straw buyer. So somebody else is purchasing the home for you. You're just buying it for them, basically. So,
Straw buyer. That's a good cute raise. We are keeping that guy. But here's what they're really looking for. Fraud. Back in the day when people were getting themselves in trouble and they were going to jail, and Jacksonville was one of the highest areas where fraud was taking place in Florida, the seller would go put money in the buyer's bank account so the buyer could buy the house, and then what happened? The buyer never made the payments. The buyer defaulted. Or maybe the buyer did make the payments. But all of the guidelines say that the down payment can't come from an interested party. That's what they're really looking for. At the end of the day, they understand fully that people save cash at home. I've got a big old jar in my closet. I won't give you my address, but I got a big old jar in my closet, and it's full of change. There's probably, $3,000 in there maybe.
Oh, wow.
My grandchildren's inheritance, if they can lift it, they can inherit it. That's the plan. But my point is, people save money at home. That's not really what the issue is. The issue is making sure an interested party, making sure the real estate agent didn't give them $5,000 so they can make $8,000. Making sure the seller didn't put that cash in the bank so they could buy that house, and maybe they're going to live in it or maybe they're not going to live in it. So what they're looking for is fraud. So in their mind, in their guideline, if that money sits there for a long enough period of time, the assumption becomes it's their money. It's not coming from an interested party. And at the end of the day, that's really what they're looking for. That's
why we ask for 2 months bank statements up front too whenever we're doing our pre-approvals. We're looking for stuff like that. Bank statements, see if they have any large deposits or anything like that going on. NSFs a lot too. We got non-sufficient funds. No problem if somebody has that in their account. So it's the reason why we asked for 2 months bank statements rather than 1. Maybe 60
Non-sufficient.
days worth.
Yeah, non-sufficient funds illustrates to an underwriter financial mismanagement. They're not managing their finances well. They're overdrawing their account. They're having issues managing their finance. So NSFs is indicative of financial mismanagement. Is it always? No. I mean, you can have fraud on your account and, you know, it causes 2 or 3 things to come through, and then they credit it all back, and then they give you back your NSF funds and all that. So if it's explainable, it's okay. But as a general rule, NSFs are not a good thing in the underwriting practice. The other thing the underwriter looks for on bank statements is what debts are being paid. I mean, the underwriter will go line by line by line by line on a bank statement. Every line will be reviewed. And we get conditions all the time. What is this payment to Capital One? What is this payment to? Who are they getting Zelle money from every month? Who is this person that's zelling them money every month? Is this an interested party? Who is this person? So yeah, it's a very detailed process when it comes to asset review, income review. But with regard to asset review, they're really looking for undisclosed debt, like Terry said, or they're looking for undisclosed cash. Any other questions? I know somebody's got to get to some garlic and cheese biscuits.
We videotape this, guys, and go on
Good to
YouTube.
know.
And we want to make it part of your training. We want you to go there and review this. None of us gets everything, you know, takes us a while. And
Yeah.
so
So before you put that on YouTube, let me put this on tape. Before you put that on YouTube, I need to send it through our compliance department, please. I feel I'm compliant, but they have to give me a little number. So don't just put it on YouTube for me, please. I would love to stay employed. I need to stay
well, we
employed.
live heavy here, so.
Well, that'd be one way to get me here quick. Terry, I'm unemployed. I need a place to work.
This is incredible training, guys, and the intent of this is to make us the best, okay? You can't be the best in this business if you don't know anything about the financing, because we help so many people that are in borderline cases, and if we don't understand that, you know, we're never gonna get them closed. And the contract that you write, you should be able to walk that all the way through closing. You know, it shouldn't be open-ended to where we constantly create problems when we get to the underwriting department, because these things can be nightmares, and you get people, anyway, a lot of human emotions go into the purchase and sale of homes, and we just wanna be the best we can possibly be with that. And so we get good answers, and you can tell the depth of the training. You know, Rachel, and they know exactly what they're talking about with this, and they can help us write the contract properly. So when we just jump up and write a contract, and we don't have any idea where the closing cost is going to come from, or even the down payment's going to come from, our chances of getting that approved are slim or none. And so if we write the contract initially, Rachel gave us an education about that a while back. If that customer does not have the money to pay the closing costs, where's it going to come from? Okay, if you don't put it in the contract to start with, that the seller's going to do that, and the seller agreed to that, then you're talking about negotiating something down. Now we're getting the human emotions involved in something that it's either not going to work if the seller won't do it, the seller's not going to net what they thought they were going to get, and so forth. So you have got to think this stuff through, okay? And we're glad to help you write contracts. That's not a problem, but think about it, because when we get them pre-qualified, it all has to gel, you know, eventually come together. So anyway, one of the reasons that we're sticking with what we're doing is we have the best affordable home program I know of available in private enterprise. Now the government's doing some things, but if you'll notice, it's all in 32145, or it's 321. We got one coming up, and we're going to put on Kingston Boulevard, and that's no impact fees, Putnam County. No impact fees, and lots are cheaper. And in this particular case, it won't be a $15,000 septic tank; it may be a 8 or 10. So you're going to save $25,000 or more by moving across the county line. And so that same person, and that's why we have to know all these answers, these questions. And so it's real good, Rachel. That's real good. We'll keep you here all day. You can keep on teaching us.
Well, I don't want you to miss your birthday celebration.
Yeah. no, we
87
don't
years
miss
old, that is something to celebrate. That's a
This-
fantastic
This is,
milestone.
and we have Ms. Wiltie with us this morning. She's an attorney, and she's running for the St. Johns County
County judge.
County judge?
County
All
judge.
right, awesome.
Yeah,
Very good.
she is, and so we appreciate her coming in. She deals in this all the time as a lawyer, so she knows a lot about it.
Yes.
And so
But this was all new information. This is interesting.
Good, isn't it?
Good,
It's
very
good,
good,
it's
yeah.
good. Now let's give Rachel a hand, that's good. And Robbie too.
And Robbie too.
Robbie too, and Rachel too. And
He's
teaching.
my future replacement, so
Any other questions though before we do anything?
Yeah. Sweet. You take that with you.
All right, guys, we can, Rachel, are we done?
we are done, my
We're
friend.
done,
We are
okay.
we are there are sandwiches and chips and drinks and birthday cake.
Hey, I think we need to sing to Robbie.
Your ballot.
Oh.
And